Hello again, and welcome into The Works.
I'm Diane.
Oh, there you go. You went first that time. This is Jim. Appreciate that. Had some good feedback from our last discussion about Central Ohio memories. A couple of good laughs.
Yeah. No, we had a couple I thought you were going to say something.
Oh no, I was just looking for feedback. We had feedback.
You had a friend from your high school days that said he was listening with his wife and he was laughing so hard he was crying.
So we've decided we'll do some more of those upcoming, more Central Ohio memories. As and I'll have to start writing stuff down because at our age, it's getting really hard to remember.
Right. We came up with some good topics
earlier
today, and then
I
thought, didn't write it down. Then I just looked at him like, what are we doing next?
But and so here we go. So speaking of some upcoming discussions, the Olympics have just started, and that is the 2026 Olympics, and we're going to. There was one of the funniest bits, or a funny bit for the first time on SNL, and I can't tell you how many years. The one SNL cast member,
Jane something or other. She was very deadpan.
But there was a bit about her. Three particular stars going to the Olympics: a skater, a skier, and a luge person, and her. Part of that was quite funny. So
yeah, I'm gonna scream the entire way down.
Yeah, didn't want to do it, but you should look that up. SNL. That was last week. Just SNL luge. But talk about the Olympics.
Things that are a sport, things that shouldn't be a sport.
Yeah, exactly. Also, want to talk about pet insurance.
Just the whole pet industry. It's a little off the chain.
GMOs and preservatives. Not that, again, these are all individual separate topics, but preservatives. And another series that we plan on starting our own hot sauce business. If you didn't know a little bit about us, we have had a hot sauce business now for a couple of years, and we're at that point where we're going to go full time, yes or no, and we're still trying to determine how to best do that, as we've overcome a lot of hurdles. We've had to learn a lot on our own, even though the industry is very regulated, right?
More regulated than you can even imagine. It just and missteps along the way. Not missteps, but as you try to scale larger to make this into, an empire versus a boutique business, there's certain things that I wish I would have known, because right now scalability is the problem. But we'll have a little mini series of starting your own cottage industry, what we did, and some
all the
of
mistakes that we made. Can't do it all. You can't do every aspect of the business, but we'll talk about that. Don't mean to be a buzzkill, but a segment that I'm thinking of starting in the news. We were talking about generations, but again, this is related to something we've talked about. We talked about generations recently, and in the news, Gen Z has been officially declared the dumbest generation.
What?
And they're fine with that. Now, this is all based on
studies about what they can retain, what they can apply,
and on their test scores.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're talking that Gen Z what is that generation? If I'm not mistaken, that's before the COVID kids, right?
Right.
Yeah. So they're the ones. Well, again, we kind of talked about this in our corporate speak discussion, but the whole idea that they actually own it, I think, is kind of fun. They're proud that they're the dumbest ones, but again, they're also the ones that I'm envious of because they don't work full time or desire to work full time. They have these YouTube channels where they travel all over the country and Anyway, so yeah, that was in the news, and then and so we want to dive into today's chat, which is
Conspiracies.
and how do they get started, or what is the theory, I guess, behind them, or is it that we all forget because we continue to perpetuate this notion of government overreach? Because isn't that really at the key of all of this?
A lot of them. Some of it is that the majority of people think one thing, and then there's a smaller group that believes something completely contradictory. So at what point, you can have different opinions, but at what point does it become apparent that it's a conspiracy? Is it, how do you know if you're doing research or questioning? And how do you know when you're going down a rabbit hole?
So one of the things that I've always been interested in, and maybe we'll have, I've got a radio background, and one of the things that, and I know, Diane, you've often blamed our crazy weather on weather control, right?
Well, jokingly, whoever's got the weather machine is having a good old time with it.
Well, and so, but there is a series of conspiracy theories behind that whole idea. Cloud seeding, contrails, those are examples of, the government doing something to control the weather, right? With cloud seeding in particular.
Yeah,
which
explain that one, because most people don't know that is actually a real thing.
Oh, it's totally a real thing. And so, and as a matter of fact, they've been doing it since the early 40s.
And what is it? Explain that to people.
So they drop silver iodide into clouds in order to help the cloud kind of generate more lift, which generates more moisture, which ultimately means that it will rain more. So that's what seeding is, basically. And the thing is that they've actually never done any studies. Well, there was one recently in 2022 that California said, based on their seeding practice, since 1969, they've been seeding clouds to help the water supply to provide water for its hydroelectric plants. Because we all know California's got issues with power. Well, that hasn't worked out so well, at least as far as I know. But yet they claim that there has been an increase of 3 to 10% of rain in California from these years, 1969, 1922. But if I'm not or 2022, there are tons of forest fires. And last time, I mean, in the news not too long ago.
And the forest fires, that creates pollution up in the air, so then they get rain after that. So,
and not them, everyone else.
Right.
Last time I had seen, there was a news article about Hoover Dam is at critical levels. They might have to stop Hoover Dam. It's so low. So again, is that because there's a population boom and development out there, and everybody wants a green lawn, or is it truly that? Oh, so here's it. So I will tie this in later with the
put a pin in it.
Yeah, very good. But so the conspiracy there is that the silver iodide used to help seed the clouds rains down on us humans, much like contrails, and that's bad for us. So again, it's but it's a way to control, in this particular case, government controlling the weather, global warming, etc. And again, in this particular case, there are studies that say it's good, others say it's bad. The other.
But that's a reality. They are doing that. So what are the other weather conspiracies that are out there?
Yeah, there's this big radio array that was started building up in Alaska in 1993, and the idea behind the radio array, it was called HARP, which stands for, and I really hate even going down this path, but high frequency active. I can't say that word. Auroral. Yeah, I can't say rural either. But
the rural.
Right. Yeah, thanks. High frequency active
auroral
research program is what HARP stands for. And what basically was the idea here, and many people have been upset. No, They have shut the program down a couple of different times, and it's now not in government hands. There are a couple of private institutions that are running it. I think there's an outreach program with one of the colleges up there where they're listening for alien, activity and things like that. But the original intent was that they were going to, and they did, they would bombard the ionosphere with this low frequency emission, like an AM radio in essence, and that would bounce off the ionosphere and ultimately create these solar proton events. And people would complain that these solar proton events, which actually happened to the National Weather Service, they don't call them solar proton. They're solar flare storm warnings or something. We've heard of these, right?
Yeah.
But the solar proton events ultimately release there's ions in it, so it increases ionization, which ultimately float apparently to both poles, the North and South Pole, which we all, of course, associate with what? Global warming, because there you got the melting of the ice caps
and the glaciers.
So this whole idea of controlling weather, when that's what the goal of that was,
to listen,
to not actually, it was study the atmosphere.
Right.
But people have associated that
with controlling weather, or the other byproduct of it. Everybody said that was a mind control.
Yeah,
the frequencies there to mind control.
They were such low frequencies. Some people claim that they heard them, and that, as a matter of fact, there were a couple of there was a book. I think you had mentioned that I'd mentioned it to you, and you had read it. The Tom Clancy Net Force.
Yeah, I hadn't read that one, but
okay.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of.
Well, I'll have to read that now that I know about this thing and what possible conspiracies. But again, it's
there's a
there's some truth to some of these things, and then somebody takes a nugget of truth and runs with it. And whether you think you're being groundbreaking, and if you surround yourself with everybody else that believes that too, you're going to believe it. It's not a conspiracy theory. When do we do the checks and balances to find out if we're
and I guess the whole idea still in my mind is, okay, these are all fun things to talk about, and let's face it, there are a lot of podcasts that are out there that are trying to debunk these things, and there's the the classics, Bigfoot,
Dogman,
Bigfoot, Bermuda Triangle, but another one that we were talking about is landing on the moon.
Yeah,
and whether or not. I know part of that is the whole idea that it was staged. But of course, then I go back to my core question is, what would be the reason that a government would stage that? Or at least, again, I know propaganda, but what would that accomplish? But I guess what's interesting is that, and if you think about it, part of what feeds that conspiracy that we've never been there is that we can't go back. For some reason, we haven't accomplished that.
No, in fact, there was this thing called Google Lunar X Prize. It was $20 million for somebody to land unmanned and land a rocket, spaceship, whatever you want to call it, on the moon. That you land it and you travel 500 meters and you send back images and data back to Earth, and you win $200 million. And it was open up to every company, entity in the world. So that was in 2007. Well, nobody won it after 1 year. Nobody won it after another year. It went on until 2018. Now, the last time...
And nobody got close.
Nobody got close. No.
And now we want to orbit the moon, right? That's the latest thing.
But back to the unmanned landings. The last one that had happened was in like 1968. Now the United States was the only country that landed on the moon. But all these they call them soft landings when they're unmanned crafts that land. And they hadn't done any since 19 1968. Oh no, the Soviets did their last one in 1976, and nobody's been able to land one until much later. Until like 2013.
Well, and that was another country, right? I mean,
No, they didn't even land. That was people just started trying again. But there were a gazillion failures from 1990 to 2014 that nobody could land.
So it comes back to, how does it start, right? It was this, and how do they continue to perpetuate itself? And so.
And it isn't that, I went down this rabbit hole that, I noticed the flag, and when we faked it, I'm not saying we faked it. I don't care. I'm just like, why haven't we been able to do it again? I know the cost, this, that, and the other thing, but I'm not saying we didn't go. I'm just saying, it's kind of peculiar. We haven't been able to do it again.
So whether you want to believe what you find on the internet, so I went down that path and trying to find the origins of like the flat earthers, where did that thought come from, or how did that continue to perpetuate? But in this case, the fact that we never went to the moon was a book, best-selling book back in 1976 by Bill Kaysing, who apparently was a NASA scientist. And in his book, he laid out an argument that then and still now, NASA does not have the technical expertise to put someone on the moon. There are absolutely no photographs to produce that or any photographs that are indicative of a landing and all that activity that happened.
A manned landing, yes.
Optical, for example, one of the things they talk about, and they've said this before, but reflections in what Armstrong's helmet, and in particular the anomaly that there are absolutely no other stars visible in the sky in those pictures.
How does that happen? But was interesting, again, back to the contest of landing something unmanned. Just landing an unmanned craft on the moon has been so difficult that they offered an additional, the Heritage Foundation offered up an additional $1 million prize just to get pictures of the Apollo program's manned landings, the artifacts that we left behind. That you take a picture of that while you're already up there, you already landed. Just get a picture. And that was immediately shut down because nobody wants anybody to land close because it might disrupt it, and it's a very historical site.
Well, even 2 years ago, we watched that thing on YouTube where
we landed unmanned,
right?
But there was no.
And they were all excited
footage.
that it landed, but yet the damn camera. It's
Didn't
amazing
work.
to me. We have all these redundant systems. We can get you there, but it's like nobody put film in the camera. Oh God, But back to the whole on the moon thing, right? It's and it's the perpetuation is what keeps that particular and a lot of these other theories. But I don't think about Hollywood's, feeding that fire with the movie a couple of years ago.
Fly Me to the Moon, not the cartoon one. God knows I sat through that one with the kids. This one was Tatum,
Tatum, and
Channing.
and SNL's
Charlotte.
His wife,
Scarlett Johansson.
There you go.
I'm getting fast backwards there.
Yes, but the plot of that movie, again, coincidentally enough, was that there was concern that in the flight, the camera, some of the equipment to document the broadcast back to Earth, that was going to break or something to that effect. But they wanted desperately to have a backup. And literally the backup was this idea of staging the entire landing. So they literally put together an entire set and practiced what it would be like with, no gravity and how all that was supposed to work, because you're filming this here on Earth, right? And I guess, for me, what I remember from it, the interesting part is they went through all of that and
Spoiler alert.
well, sorry,
Right.
yeah. So they went through all that and they again were going to use that as the backup if they couldn't get the real, but no one knew at the time that
It was actually the real one that aired.
that it was the real foot that they were actually on the moon. But
the end.
yeah. So, but it's like I said, it's this idea of what perpetuates or how do these things start. And I think maybe that's interesting that again somebody back in the 70s, 10 years after this, this is a great USA moment, right? Let's face it. And maybe that was part of it. Maybe that's part of why these things happen. And then there's someone always out there that wants to not tear it down, but start peeling away at the things that, let's face it, as time has gone by, the fact that we still haven't been able to go back.
Right. It just makes you go, because I didn't grow up thinking that it was all faked. It was just, over the years, you're like, oh, yeah, there's a contest to go. Wait a minute. Why haven't we gone?
It's nice to ask questions.
Right. Just makes you go, So I don't want you to think we're, donning our, foil hats and we're part of this brigade.
So,
but you just kind of go, I can't wait to see how this plays out.
So what this brings me to is I want to perpetuate another sort of, let's come up with our own conspiracy theory. And one that we've kind of batted around a couple of times, and that is, again, and the reason, let's define the framework for what a conspiracy is all about is government control.
Right.
Electric cars.
Yeah. Well,
The
that's
conspiracy, the conspiracy of the electric car that will be the demise of this country and society in general because
you can't go anywhere.
you can't go anywhere.
Other than 100 miles out
You're
before you
dependent-
need to charge.
Well, you're dependent on a charge station.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, remember the arguments on one side. All the green people love it because why? Yeah, electricity comes from jelly beans,
Mm-hmm.
and it's carbon free. But the reality is that electricity isn't from jelly beans. It takes more carbon to produce the electricity than a damn car that has gas.
Yeah.
And again, the beauty there is, you want to go another 200 miles, you stick a gallon, a gas tank gallon, or what are they called? Gas tank gallon.
Mm-hmm.
You put one in your trunk. You can go as far as you have the ability to go without.
In a timely fashion.
Well, let's face it. Every of these charge stations are built by the government. They had. I mean, that's where Tesla got all this money. And every time you plug into one, you're plugging into the network to let people know where you are. Right?
Good point. Yeah.
But not with, the old gas guzzler. But again, it's all about, government overreach. And
Right. What about the conspiracy that we actually had developed a car that ran on water? Where's that one?
Well, and so let's face it, there are technology advances will bring us to the point where they're starting to. Well, you and I looked at the first. Toyota had one. Hydrogen, yeah, car that ran on hydrogen. It was a cell, much like with the at the core of the
instead of a lithium battery, it was a hydrogen cell,
which is rechargeable.
Okay.
So, and much like a lithium battery, which then, of course, to feed this conspiracy, think of all the slave labor that's building all these lithium,
Right.
Mining lithium from all these places, and the kids that are putting the batteries together and all that. So, with the car, whether your fuel source is combustion and gasoline that you, like I said, can almost anonymously get, you can store.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with electricity is the storage is the battery. The car itself is as big as the damn battery. That's the whole point. But that depletes itself. The hydrogen fuel, I think, was good for like 18,000 miles, and then you had to get it recharged. And that, of course, not necessarily practical.
Right.
But anyway, my point with technology is that synthetic fuels are starting to come of age, and well, we've got corn in the damn gas.
The ethanol, yeah.
Right. That truly does lessen, because again, one of the big arguments from the green side is saving the earth from carbon and the greenhouse and
the emissions
and
everything.
sure. So, of course, I hate to say I poo-poo the idea that, let's face it, electricity comes from coal-burning power plants.
Majority.
Of course,
Right.
we're all afraid of nuclear, but neither here nor there.
Right. Instead, we're doing the wind turbines that disrupt
Oh, that's a whole other issue.
animals,
Sure.
weather.
So,
Oh
yeah.
my.
So,
Yeah.
so we have the notion of using electricity for transportation, and then part of that, again, to make you feel better, is this whole, carbon footprint thing, right? Your the carbon credits. But of course, I have to remind everyone that Trump just took us out of that Paris Agreement, which is all about the carbon thing, right? Because the issue with carbon emissions is that under the Paris Agreement, which we were part of, but then Trump took us out of it the second time, is the idea that there is this standard across the world saying, hey, look, you can only have a certain carbon footprint, for example.
But not every country follows it.
Well, most of them did, and most of them do. We're the only we're the only one that's pulled out, and there's a couple others that they're thinking about it. But
what about India?
No, they have it. As a matter of fact, there's a whole industry around carbon credits.
Oh,
it's
okay.
much like crypto. Now we can have a fun conversation about that.
Yeah,
but so with carbon footprints, where every country is allocated a certain amount. Here's a fun little fact. So you might have heard that story where Taylor Swift, that the year that the Chiefs were in the Super Bowl and she had a concert somewhere, so Taylor had to buy a whole bunch of carbon. Her private jet exhaust is like 138 tons of carbon. That was in that day. Typically, the average American household uses about 60 carbon credits, units, or whatever. Again, we're not on that credit system, but the amount of carbon that we're throwing back in the air through our emissions, right? Through our cars. And but her jet apparently uses 138, so she bought a whole bunch of carbon credits. And the idea, the carbon credits then go into this pool where those things go to projects that help save the environment. Like, for example, I had no idea, there are methanol capture power stations.
Oh.
And of course, do you walk up to it, fart in some sort of, cone, and then that captures or is the methane just, how do you drive around with the big smeller thing and you capture, but so, anyway, not to be cute, but so that's what the whole carbon credit thing is about. So back to my point with our conspiracy, or at least let's promote one, this whole notion of the electric car, because, with this country's founded on, go west, and what was the saying? Go west, young man. You get in your car and you just drive.
And Route 66.
So,
go.
But now, let's face it, with
stay where you are.
Well, because you can't go any further than a couple hundred miles without having to hook up for
a couple hours.
Yeah, sure. They advertise the whole 20-minute things will get you somewhere, but
no, it's crazy.
Yeah. So there you go. I think we've covered that topic to a certain degree, and
it'd be interesting to find out what you think guidelines are from when you're in a minority point of view. When should you be worried that you're in it's a conspiracy? What's the threshold?
And so, yeah, exactly. What sort of conspiracy theories keep you up at night, if there are any? I don't think that, honestly, again, none of these really bother me.
What's your guilty pleasure that it's just pure entertainment? You don't believe it, but it's fun going down the rabbit hole because you're like, damn, why are these people thinking this?
Well, the whole JFK thing, that's still, let's face it.
Yeah.
They released all the documents, but if everything was redacted that was important, that's still a decent, hell, movies, there are great movies that came out of that one.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
yeah, let me know what you're into. Not necessarily what you believe, because I want to be entertained. Yes,
we might
I need to be in.
too.
I might be interested just to make me go,
Again, appreciate great opportunity to interact with. We're gonna have to figure out how to get guests to call in.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Or even if I just make up voices, like I do a good Harry Carey. We need experts, because here's the problem, and we're not. But it's So again, we appreciate you tuning in and cueing the background music, which you don't hear, but well, you'll hear it here shortly. But again, thanks for listening to The Works. This is Jim.
I'm Diane.
We'll see you next time.